Access granted.
I am back to interviewing streamers and asking them about their background, how they got to Twitch, and their journey as streamers. My goal is to drop an episode at least twice a month. Do whatever the equivalent of following is on the platform you are listening to this on, so you know when I have dropped the next episode of Stream Machine. If you end up enjoying this episode, please give it 5 stars or whatever that is on the platform you're listening on, so that this podcast can grow. And thank you for that. This is episode 13 of Stream Machine. In this episode, I interviewed Zanian. He is a Canadian living in Germany. Originally there for an internship, he came back to Canada, then decided he wanted to live there, and so he found some place that he could live in Germany. And so now it looks like that he's there to stay. And so we talk about that journey. We talk about his love of retro games and playing those with friends. He kind of goes beer nerd on me, which I appreciate. I don't know much about like drinking or like beer or anything, but I appreciate how he explains the different qualities that beer can have, how beer can be differentiated from other beers, how he loves beers from like different cultures. So I think all of that is really interesting. And then he talks about how his dad had influence on him as far as his love of reading, and something about that made me hypothesize on why he is so good at having opinions on things. Like, I feel like he has a lot more opinions on things than other people that I've watched in general. That's not a bad thing. It's like, it can be pretty entertaining to hear how like someone else thinks and why they think the way they do. And it made me wonder about his interest, his study of comparative literature. Made me wonder if that's an influence on why he has opinions on so many things. As far as like, I'm wondering when he reads, he must have a lot of opinions on what he's reading about. I'm wondering if that influenced him on how he has opinions on other things as well. How he very readily has opinions on other things. So, and I would say like, you know, reasoned opinions, not just opinions. Like, he has opinions for, I think, good reasons. And then we also talk about Morsel, how Morsel made a hack that really kind of changed how people think of like Kaizo hacks. And there was a certain inspiration that Morsel had that we'll talk about later on in the podcast that he goes into about like why he thinks Morsel is so influential. So yeah, we talk a lot of interesting things. Oh, also one more thing. We also talk about how he got into Twitch, how he got interested in Twitch, and it wasn't because of Kaizo. He is a Kaizo streamer, but that isn't initially what brought him to Twitch. So I think that is also very interesting. But yeah, I really enjoyed the conversation with Zanian. I think you'll enjoy it too. And yeah, this is a bigger podcast than usual. And honestly, that's very much Zanian. He just has a lot to say, and yeah, I hope you enjoy it. And thank you for listening or watching. Also, there will be clips in this video. And those are honestly going to be best if you view them. The clips will be viewable on YouTube like along with this podcast, or in this podcast episode. If you're just listening, you are going to be missing some context, so just some fair warning on that. But with all that said, thank you for listening, thank you for watching, and yeah, please enjoy the podcast.
And that's what's so special about this Storks hack for me, is that it just gave so many people, it opened the door to a different way of thinking about hack making. And I think we're still seeing that legacy today. And we are I mean, I can say that with confidence because Barbarous King just released Grand Pool Road 3 just about a month ago, and he mentions Morsel in the credits.
Yo, Zanian.
Yo, how's it going?
Pretty good. How about you?
Yeah, good.
Yeah, so before we get started, in case anyone's here for the first time, I'll be interviewing Zanian. So if you want to go check out his channel, it's twitch.tv/Zanian, spelled Z or Z for Canadians. A NIAN _. And yeah, you can go check out his channel. And yeah, for those of you who don't know, what I'll be doing is I'll be asking questions about his history as a gamer, what his personal interests have been, where he's been, and why he's moved, and how he got into streaming. Understanding him not just as a gamer, as a streamer, but also as like a person. So, are you ready?
Yeah, I'm running what you are.
All right, let's go. So, you grew up in Canada, right?
Yeah.
And like Quebec?
Yeah, so I mean province of Quebec, but I grew up in Montreal, so
Montreal, okay.
Well, not the capital, but it's the big city for Quebec.
Gotcha. And like, can you also speak French pretty well, or?
Yeah, I mean I'd say I'm fluent, but you don't have to test me, I guess.
I'll believe you. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean I grew up speaking French mostly at school. Wasn't really until later in life when I started working, and then now, I mean, my partner is from France, so I've kind of gotten away with more practice in my adult life. Yeah.
And so you started learning when you were like in elementary school, or?
Yeah, so it starts like it kind of depends, but a lot of people do what they call French immersion. So for like English or kids with an English background that go to sort of the English school board schools, there's a French immersion program that starts like right out the get-go from kindergarten on. And you sort of, yeah, I mean, the idea is immersion, right? So yeah, learning at like age 5, I guess, or maybe 6. I don't know when kindergarten starts, actually. Yeah,
I think it's like 4, but yeah.
Or maybe it was 4 then, you know. Yeah. Yeah, I should be better than that.
We'll check the records. Yeah. And I'm just curious, like the part that you lived in. Can you say like what it was like culturally? Like, were people friendly? Were people like to themselves? Like, do you remember that kind of stuff?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think it's sort of like as a kind of typical, stereotypical Canadian friendliness. I mean, you know, there's nice and not nice people everywhere, but yeah, I mean, growing up, people were pretty nice going around. I mean, I will say like the neighborhood that I grew up in was a lot more Anglophone. So like you go into shops and stuff, or you see people in the streets, like the kind of language people spoke was typically English, but it is, I mean, it's an officially French city, you know.
Right.
Just because of the province and stuff.
So.
And
growing up, did you like have a lot of friends? Like, or did you?
I would say so. Yeah. I've been pretty social most of my life. Yeah.
And like, what did you do for fun with them?
I mean, depends on the age and depends on the people. But I mean, I grew up playing a lot of video games first. Like that's kind of I would say my oldest hobby. There's definitely like, you know, for example, I grew up playing ice hockey. I'm used to saying ice hockey because in Germany they always say ice hockey. Like if you say hockey there, they think it's field hockey. So now I started saying ice hockey in English. It really frustrates me because of course we just call it hockey. But I grew up playing hockey. You know, played soccer, baseball, other sports in the summer and stuff. But you know, as much as I was like into sports to a certain degree, I mean, video games have been my passion since I was, I don't know, like as old as I could play. And I would say like my first friends, that's kind of like a lot of the bonding stuff that happened was just, you know, playing games. Later on, I would say music more. Like I was definitely in my teenage years to my early 20s, like music was my life, and played in a lot of bands and stuff. And you know, when when I was allowed, or when we felt like we were allowed to start drinking, I guess that was kind of a hobby too. Um, you know, yeah, that's
um,
pretty much.
so going back to hockey, do you still keep track of that or no?
Yeah, so funny enough, I just started playing again for the first time in about 10 years. 'Cause I left Canada about 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And now like I'm studying again, and through my university there's a hockey program on Friday mornings, and like I'm actually
Mm-hmm.
playing for the first time. Like yesterday I was out at the rink. It's something that I would have kept up if it was easier to do where I live, because I mean I absolutely adore playing hockey, but it's just not the same out here. There's no like, there are leagues, but it's kind of difficult to find info on them, difficult to get in, and maybe bad times and stuff. But
Do you think
yeah.
you'll still keep it up? Like, is there enough for you to keep up with it?
I mean, I think like while I'm studying for sure, that because it's sort of like this casual 8 a.m. thing. So
Mm-hmm.
you just get to go and skate around, and then we play a little bit of pickup. If I could find a proper league, I would totally keep up. Maybe I should kind of look for that. But if I move back to Canada, I mean, I'll probably, I imagine I'll play until I can't, or whether that's because I physically can't or because I'm not around anymore.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And when did you get into music exactly, and what did you play?
I think must have been. Oh, and I think about it, I think we bought a guitar at a pawn shop when I was like 12, and I pretended to
Mm-hmm.
play for 2 years. But I mean, like, you know, just hitting it. Um,
Okay, how do you pretend to play? Like,
well, just like pretending to make chords and annoying my mom and my brother. Yeah.
yeah,
I started to seriously play when I was
yeah.
14. I got my first bass guitar,
Okay.
and I started taking lessons, and I took it very seriously. Like from then on, pretty quickly I joined a band, and then from then on, like, I mean, music was everything back then. That's at least how it felt. Yeah.
And like, how many different bands have you been in?
Uh, I don't know, maybe 6, 7 or something.
Dang. Okay.
Uh, not most of them weren't serious.
Mm-hmm.
I would say two of them were very serious.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them in particular was like very serious, like to a point where kind of thought, that we would make something of it, but yeah, fell apart. Yeah.
um, and like, I'm just like, what are some venues you would play? Would you play in like bars or like people's houses or?
So with one of so it was like actually the first band that I was in. Yeah, the first show we played in some sort of like one of these old garage depot things in an industrial area of Montreal.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody had turned it into a semi-legal show space, artist space or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of like a classic. It was out in the east end of the city. So I was more from like the west end, center west kind of went anyway. But
Mm-hmm.
out in the east end of Montreal, there's it was sort of like all these people from around where I lived would come to this place, and there were always like grunge punk shows, and so we played there like a bunch of times. We used
Mm-hmm.
to play then. Yeah, it was honestly these like often these like punk venues that would kind of do local shows. Very few
Mm-hmm.
people from those scenes would ever like make anything of it. It was very much like, you could tell it was very much like teenage oriented and stuff. But there's definitely a
Mm-hmm.
few guys that I played with from back in the day that still play, and um, I actually, even from that band, there's a guy that was he played trumpet, and he's actually in pretty successful bands now in Seattle.
Oh,
So
nice.
yeah, actually pretty cool. There's some people who definitely moved on and made things with music, but yeah, stuff like that. And then the other band that I said was even more serious, which was the last band I played in. We only played one show, and
Oh.
it was actually at the
Mm-hmm.
Canadian Legion, which is kind of, I mean, I guess you would know what the Legion is, but it's a very
No,
Canadian
actually,
thing.
okay.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, what is Legion? Yeah.
So the Legion is, I mean, like it's kind of a cool place. It's essentially a place for veterans to go to have like community. It kind of gives community to a little bit of to smaller towns as well. So like in a small town, you'll have the Legion, and people go to there's like bingo nights, and there's events, and they can put on cultural stuff. There's things like that. Sometimes it gets sort of like in pop culture, we'll get like a bit of a bad rap for being a place that kind of, people go to drown their sorrows. It's not always like a
Oh,
happy place.
okay,
So
okay.
there's like some stigma around it too. But I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the conception of it is that it's a place for veterans to go to be able to have some sort of community.
I see.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, and the main guy in the bands, like I was kind of like the producer, I would say. We used to put on these shows for his students because he taught music. Anyway, we played there. We never really made anything of it,
Uh,
but
hmm
yeah.
Yeah, still sounds like a fun experience for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Good times.
Um, and now as far as gaming, what are like the highlights? What games do you have fun like playing with your friends? I guess in
So you mean
Quebec
like
and
back in the day, like growing up and stuff?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh God. I mean, honestly, sleepovers, like playing like GoldenEye or Perfect Dark,
Mm,
or
mm-hmm.
like even, yeah. I mean, it's kind of crazy because like I guess I grew up on the N64. So
Right.
I was born '90, so like when I was
Mm,
like at that age where I was hanging out with friends, sleeping over at people's places and playing games, like the 64 was the thing. I had a few friends in this like tight group that we had, that were like PlayStation kids kind of, so it was kind of cool. We could go
mm-hmm.
over there, and they had a PlayStation. I remember I had a 64. So
Yeah,
there was a
yeah.
lot of that. Like, I mean, I'm sure you remember growing up and stuff like that, right?
I did something similar. Like I had the Sega
Yeah.
Genesis. I go over to my friend's house, play
Yes.
SNES.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that's the best kind of stuff because I grew up with a little bit of Genesis, but not so much. But
Mm-hmm.
kind of funny. Like I've always been a retro gamer. Like I realize, like I've always kind of liked things that are older, and I think there's some sort of I'm sure there's some sort of like, pretentiousness there, or something that you could latch on to that is like a little bit negative of sort of like, oh yeah, well it's older so it has to be better. But very very quickly in my friends group we sort of stuck to the older things. So like
Mm-hmm.
instead of like, when the 360 came out, instead of like all hanging out and playing 360, like we were still playing like SNES games. I remember getting, having a few beers. So I mean, I had to have at least been 14, 15, 16 or something, and we're still playing SNES games. Like, oh, we're gonna beat all of Super Mario World tonight, or all of Donkey Kong Country, or Link to the Past,
Mm-hmm.
which we never did. But um, yeah, so I would say like highlights were for sure growing up, like specifically these two friends,
Mm-hmm.
and playing games with them, discovering RPGs. I'd say that was like pretty pivotal for me
Mm-hmm.
too.
Like
Um,
which RPGs were like big for
like
you?
specifically Final Fantasy and other side, and Chrono Trigger.
Hmm.
Like to show off, I'm pointing at my
Uh,
Chrono Trigger box
gotcha.
here on my shelf.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah. So just he's telling me he's pointing because I can't actually see.
yeah.
So
What?
so
I thought we could see each other. Yeah,
that's cool.
yeah.
Um,
And
and
other fond memory I would say too is just because this kind of pivotal, I'd say, for what led me to streaming even was, I grew up in Montreal, and I really the only extended family I have is in North Carolina. And
mm-hmm.
every summer we would go to visit. So it was my aunt and uncle and their two kids, so my two cousins, and then my grandfather or grandmother also lived out there.
Mm-hmm.
And we would go. They had a beach house along the coast. We would go there every year, and they had an NES. And every year we'd go there and we'd play SMB1, SMB2,
Oh,
SMB3,
nice.
Metroid 1, Zelda 1, and like we just went to town on those games. And those are
Okay.
some of the games that I'm still playing
Mm-hmm.
today. They also had the SNES, which is now my SNES, but
Mm-hmm.
it's depended on the year whether the SNES was like at the house or not. And
Mm-hmm.
those
So
are
I
like
have to
fond
know.
memories growing up for sure.
I have to know because I've asked like two other people. Like, well,
Yeah.
Before just SMB3, but you mentioned 1, 2, 3, and Zelda. So how many of those as a kid did you actually beat?
SMB1 we beat because
Hmm.
it's, I mean, come on, it's not even that hard. Once you know about the warps, it's like it's a joke. The
Yeah.
real question
Mm-hmm.
is whether you know about the warps, right? So yeah, I definitely beat SMB1. I beat as a kid for
Mm-hmm.
sure. I don't even remember when.
Mm-hmm.
SMB3 we for sure beat, and
Wow, really? Okay.
I'm pretty sure we beat, like, we would leave the console on and oh wait, yeah, because SMB3 doesn't save, right?
No, yeah, it doesn't.
Exactly. I remember we used to leave the console on and just hope that it would not freeze. Because it was like
Yeah, yeah.
we'd play like after dinner. It was like, oh, okay, we're allowed to. And I remember we used to like sneak out, like be in different rooms because it was like me, my brother, my two cousins. We're like four kids in this
Mm-hmm.
place where like all these adults are sleeping too. So there's my mom, there's my aunt, my uncle, my grandmother, my grandfather in like a small beach house thing. And I remember like crawling under the like dining room table and like sneaking into my cousin's room. Like we would knock, they'd let us in, and like obviously our parents, like, obviously they knew we were sneaking in and stuff. We'd sit there for hours playing and playing and playing. And finally we'd go to sleep, and in the morning we'd have to wake up, and it was like, we're going to the beach, right? No
Yeah.
video games now, even though, I wanted to stay back and play games.
Yeah.
And we just have to hope like the console hasn't died, right? We'd get home, and then we would continue. I mean, we definitely beat it with Toot Whistles, but I'm pretty sure we beat the 8 worlds at some point too. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Metroid 1, forget it. I mean, like, didn't even get to Ridley or Kraid, let alone beat the game. Yeah.
Yeah, leaving the console was the save hack back in the day, but it was
Yeah.
nice when games actually gave you a password to enter in,
Well, there
like
you go.
Mega
Like,
Man or
even
Punch Out.
Metroid.
Yeah.
Metroid gave us a
Oh,
password, and I still
right.
couldn't beat the damn
Yeah,
thing, you know?
yeah,
Yeah, that game's an
yeah.
absolute brutal one. Yeah.
And then, at which point did you wait? Was there a place you moved to before you moved to Germany, or was your next place after like Canada to Germany?
Yeah, so I did an exchange program. So I was studying in Montreal. I did my bachelor's there. And I did
Linguistics?
I did a minor in German, and there was like
Oh,
linguistics components, but I was at
mm-hmm.
a liberal arts college. So
Okay.
I mean, technically, history of Western, or history and culture of Western civilization, I think it's what it's called.
Oh, okay.
But it is sort of like a great books program. So it was literature and philosophy mostly.
Ah,
Um,
okay.
yeah, so I did that, and then I did an exchange in Vienna for a year in Austria.
Mm-hmm.
So I was there. What was that? 20, must have been 2012 to 2013. And then I
Mm-hmm.
came back to Montreal for a year, and after that, I finished my degree, and I moved to Germany to do my master's, which was in linguistics.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So during your exchange program, were you, like after you went from there back to Montreal, were you like, oh, I actually liked it there and I want to go back? Like,
Yeah, so I already knew Berlin quite well because one of the guys in this first band, the one that I was playing a lot of shows with and stuff, the drummer. I mean, we were just good
hmm
friends growing up anyway. But
yeah.
he coincidentally like also learned German at the end of high school. We
hmm
have this thing called CJEP. Anyway, basically when you're 17, 18 or so,
hmm
he also learned German, and he ended up going out to Berlin and studying at a university here. Did math, and I came to visit him a few times over the years because my mom was a flight attendant, so I was able to kind of go over, for like a week or two at a
hmm
time, for not
hmm
too much. And I just absolutely fell in love with Berlin. So my goal was actually always to get to Berlin, and there were no exchanges to Berlin specifically. So I just said, I'll just go to the whatever other agreements, or whatever other university they have agreements with in the German speaking world.
hmm
And Vienna just seemed like the best option. So after I got back to Montreal, my goal was still to get to Berlin.
hmm
Uh, I flirted with going to the Netherlands for a while, but the problem is non-EU citizens pay something like 10 grand a year, like 10,000 euros a year.
Jeez.
And like, I mean, I'm not, even if I had that money, I'm not paying it for a degree in comp lit. Um,
Is that just like an out of
You
state
know,
fee? Like what is that? Or out of country
it's
fee? Like
it's a non-EU fee. So if you're an EU resident, or sorry, EU citizen, I think it's like,
mm-hmm.
maybe it's changed now and it's even more expensive, but it's something like 1,900 a year, which is, for North Americans, I think that's pretty okay. But
Mm-hmm.
10,000 a year, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
when in Germany it's free. So I came here instead,
Right.
Berlin,
That makes
and
sense.
kind of changed up what I was going to do. I was going to actually study comparative literature, and I switched to linguistics kind of last minute. Oh
So
yeah.
two related questions. So first of all, with Berlin, what is it you fell in love with Berlin?
Definitely the sort of culture side, and by culture I mean nightlife, multiculturalism. Yeah, I mean, long story short, longer story is sort of, I mean, I came to visit, and just the possibilities that you have at night to go out and drink and eat cheaply in cool places and have good food
Mm,
and just
mm-hmm.
meet people from all over the world who, there's a vibe. I mean, there's like a specific vibe in Berlin that's just like
Mm-hmm.
very, very open minded. And I mean, obviously, as I was saying earlier, same about Montreal. There's good and bad people everywhere. I
Right,
genuinely
sure.
believe that. But
Mm-hmm.
this city just doesn't sleep, and you can work a very normal 9 to 5 life if you want
Mm-hmm.
to, and survive on very little because the city's still quite cheap.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can party like an animal all weekend, and people are in the clubs and they don't stop for 48, 72 hours sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
You can kind of pick and choose, and having that all available creates just a very interesting dynamic, I'd say.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of the main appeal, yeah.
And
Mm.
you said you're originally going to study comparative literature. So
Yeah.
did you read a lot growing up? I didn't ask you about that earlier.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Well, I also didn't mention it because sometimes it slips my mind, which I guess
mm,
maybe
it
explains why
happens.
I'm not doing that. Um, Yeah, I mean, honestly, so my dad was a novelist. So
Mm-hmm.
reading was a thing at home. He read to me at a very early age, and I picked up books. Like, was reading by myself quite early
Mm-hmm.
on. Like, I think a lot of people are reading quite early, but I was reading for pleasure,
Mm-hmm.
like for myself quite early on, and I didn't really have much opportunity in elementary and high school, just based on the high school that I went to that was a lot more like science and math oriented. It just happened to be the high
Mm-hmm.
school in the area that I got into,
Mm-hmm.
was like that. There just wasn't much stimulation in the arts, and so after high school, when I went to the CGIP thing that I mentioned earlier, I specifically chose to do literature because I just wanted, like, that was the stuff I was doing in my spare time. I was playing music in my spare time, reading in my spare time. I was
Mm-hmm.
interested in languages, so I thought, well, I wanted to get out of math and science, or at least not really go into it, because I mean, in high school you don't
Right.
really know yet, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, even though I guess it was something that I knew that it was never going to be something that I wanted to do for a career. I would say that it was very like formative and important for me to just, you know have spent a lot of time and devoted a lot of energy to reading, and I don't know. Yeah.
Hmm.
Uh,
If you did go the comparative literature route, like what would you do as a career? Would you be a professor? Like how would that work?
for a long time, I thought that I wanted to be a professor, and after
Mm-hmm.
after doing my master's, I realized, like, there's just no way I want to stay in academia. Um, so I don't know. Maybe things would have been different, and I would have thought of it differently. But I think I kind of always knew that I was never going to be in the field. So yeah, I mean, working as a professor, or people will transition to being a teacher, or maybe people become a writer. But I mean, again, I don't know if you want to. I don't know if literary criticism or literature is necessarily something you want to go into to be a writer. I mean, obviously those tools will help you, but
Mm-hmm.
creative writing might be better, or just writing and working on the side. Maybe copy editing, maybe working in publishing or something like that. And I could have imagined those kind of jobs for sure,
Mm-hmm.
but they weren't. They would have been something that I think I settled on, if anything. Yeah. Yeah,
And
I never took university. For me, university was was something I was doing more for myself than I guess like a path, because I didn't know what I
That makes
wanted really.
sense.
Yeah,
Right, right. Yeah, I
yeah,
mean, I can relate to that because I didn't take philosophy because I thought I was gonna get a job in it. So,
exactly.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm wondering also, with regards to like what books you read, like I guess which ones did you remember like liking a lot?
G- Growing up, one of my favorite books was The Quiet American. There's good reasons for that. I think part of that
Mm-hmm.
is a bit of bias because
Mm-hmm.
um, so the program that I went into in CEGEP was this 2 year. It was also called liberal arts, but it was much more. It wasn't just reading books. It was also, and we studied like hard philosophy, logic classes, and things like that too, on top of the
Mm-hmm.
literature. My dad actually taught in that program, and he retired the year I went in, but there was a family friend who I really respected and looked up to,
Mm-hmm.
who was just, I mean, I've known her my whole life, and I think when I got to her class in the second year,
Mm-hmm.
that was her last year, and so she did actually teach me. And one of the books on the syllabus was The Quiet American. And I mean, studying a book versus just reading it is definitely a different beast. But the
Right.
the way it opened my eyes to literature and to sort of thinking about fiction in general, it just completely blew me away. I have not read that book since I read it almost half my life ago now, so I probably got to give it another go. But
How did it change how you looked at fiction exactly, if you can remember?
well, a lot of the it's a really really fascinating book. So written by Graham Greene. So Graham Greene was, I mean, he's a famous 20th century British
Mm-hmm.
novelist, but he also worked in journalism, right? So he would
Mm-hmm.
write articles for journals or send things in.
Mm-hmm.
And at some point he was living in Vietnam. I think in the God, it must have been in like the 50s. Like pretty early on when it was like French, part of French Indochina. I hope I'm not telling lies. But now it's on record. But anyway, um,
Everyone go back and verify. Just
yeah, please go back and verify. Don't listen to me. Anyway, so he was there, and at some point he wrote an article for some magazine or journal or newspaper. I'm not quite sure, back in Britain.
mm-hmm.
Um, and it was he was in this plane. Some pilot took him up in a plane, and he makes some observations, and there's some stuff in there. And he writes this article, and it gets rejected because it's too political. It's got too much in
Mm-hmm.
it. It's not showing things in a good light. And he kind of says, "Okay, fuck it," and he writes The Quiet American, and he puts in pretty much word for word. I mean, I'm sure he edited it. He was kind of known for editing things to hell. Um, and he puts the article in the book, and he writes it into there. And the book really deals a lot with this idea of fact and fiction, and also taking sides, sort of
Mm-hmm.
about political apathy. Like, is it okay to be apathetic, but is being apathetic also taking a side? And it was just really, I was just really fascinated by his handling of the concepts of fact and fiction. And I guess
Mm-hmm.
for me, as someone who's like, I am very like science oriented. I'm studying engineering now. I'm
Mm-hmm.
sort of very interested in the hard sciences as well, but my
Mm-hmm.
heart's in the humanities. Sort of seeing the way he's sort of telling you like, hey, you're reading my novel, and the novel is actually more factual in many ways than the article that I wrote because they censored it. So you're asking for your nonfiction, and you're not
Mm-hmm.
even getting the real picture. But then also, fiction in general can give you a real human side of things as well. That even if it's
Mm-hmm.
completely fictional. So I was just very inspired by that because I think it can also just so many of the things that we do in life. I think that you can find meaning or truth or falsehoods in every
Mm-hmm.
aspect of our lives. I don't know. it's not really related to anything else, but there's something really inspiring about that book. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I gotta go read it
Um,
again. Yeah.
and before I forget, okay, so I know you're also like drinking is also really, I don't know how to phrase this without making it sound like an alcoholic, but
Well, sometimes the truth hurts,
but yeah, when did you like when did your interest in like drinking and like beer and brewing, like when did that, sorry, I don't know how to phrase it, but you know what
No,
I'm
no,
trying to
no,
ask
no.
you.
I mean, just you could say it how it is. I mean, look, I started sort of drinking casually, I guess, when I was 14. I
Mm-hmm.
mentioned that earlier, so the truth is out anyway, right? Let's just let's
Mm-hmm.
hit it. Let's just hit it straight on. Yeah, I mean, I was drinking in alleyways with my friends at 14 and stuff. I think very quickly I realized, like, I thought I knew what was better and what I was talking about. I mean, the older I
Mm-hmm.
get, the more I realize that that's just not the case. Um, yeah, I mean, we can say on like the other spectrum, just to say real quickly, like, so I'm studying beer brewing now. I'm doing a beer brewing and engineering.
Sure. Yeah.
It's like a chemical engineering degree.
Mm-hmm.
I was taking this class last semester, I think it was, sort of sensory
Mm-hmm.
analysis, and going through the taste testing stuff, like trying to identify certain compounds that we have in there. So like this is a metallic flavor compound. So certain flavors, like metallic flavor, which one has the most of it? And I just totally botched it, mixed up
Mm-hmm.
metallic with sweet at some point, and like I had trouble identifying certain intensities. Now I had had some coffee before, like a big thing of coffee. So I mean, I could use that as an excuse, but at the end of the day, I don't think I knew what I was talking about when I was 14, and I still maybe
Mm-hmm.
don't know. But yeah, I was always kind of searching for different stuff. My dad was a massive drinker.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say my mom's a massive drinker, but she definitely likes to have her drinks. But my dad was a massive drinker. So very quickly, I think we bonded over booze and alcohol and stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, honestly, it just took off like from when I started drinking, even casually,
Mm-hmm.
to when I kind of got into the whole craft beer stuff. Easily would have been when I was like 18, 19, I guess. Because, yeah, I didn't start going to bars really until I was of legal age, 18
Mm-hmm.
in Quebec. Um,
Um,
and yeah, I don't think that's ever really stopped being a thing. I started home brewing when I got back from Vienna. So I guess I was 23 then. Yeah.
mm-hmm. And question about the classes you're taking. So you said you were mixing up like sweet with metallic. And so you're basically doing like inventories of flavor essentially, or like.
Yeah, so that class specifically was about how do breweries perform sensory analysis? What is sensory analysis? So, for
Mm-hmm.
example, like a brewery, let's say, has a beer. Let's say all they
Mm-hmm.
brew is, you know, gold golden lager brew or something. That's their one
Mm-hmm.
thing. Every single time that a brew is done and it gets bottled and released, a
Mm-hmm.
good brewery, I mean, not every brewery might do this. Some might just have somebody taste it. But I mean,
Mm-hmm.
somebody's got to taste that beer before it hits the shelves or hits the
Right.
taps.
Yeah.
And a good brewery will have a certain amount of people that are that they might have other tasks, but their job is also to do quality assurance, and they'll do sensory analyses. There's different frameworks for
Mm-hmm.
that and different tests, but
Mm-hmm.
they'll have to taste them and
Yeah.
basically determine if the beer is, one, what we say it is, and
Right.
two, if it's really marketable. I mean, if you can even put it on the shelf. And if it doesn't pass a certain threshold, then sometimes you can, yeah, I mean, you can blend beers and stuff to kind of
Mm-hmm.
blend out some of the off flavors and see if that does it, or you might even have to just
Mm-hmm.
completely throw it down the drain. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes
So we
sense.
so we were talking about that, and then doing some of the tests that they would do in breweries to kind of just see
Mm-hmm.
what it's like, to give us an understanding.
And so after you complete your program, like, what's your plan? Are you gonna stay where you are now? Are you going to just go wherever you can find like an internship, or yeah, what's gonna happen next after you finish your program?
Like, good question. I'm kind of holding out on getting German citizenship. There's a
Mm-hmm.
law that is in the process of maybe being changed. It's being discussed in the parliament here. It's looking kind of complicated. I don't really know, but basically, if the law passes, you can get dual citizenship, or there's a framework for it, and I want to hold out for that. So I would have to work in Germany. I also am kind of looking to just stay in Berlin because this is my home for now. I don't really know what the future holds for me, but I definitely want to work in a brewery, and I would definitely want to work as a brewer. If I have to do things in the interim, like right now I have a job working in a research lab in a research brewery here. And that's fine. I can see myself doing that for the foreseeable future. But I mean, the dream is I want to be a brewer, and I want to have control over what I'm brewing. So ideally, I'm not brewing a Pilsner every day for some massive macro brew, same recipe, same 10 beers every day, day in, day out. I want connection to the product. Like, so I want to, I'd want to run my own brew house and decide what beers I'm making, or at least be part of that decision making. And ideally, I'd like to own my own microbrewery or brew pub, but that's a future dream.
So I don't drink, so I don't know much about beer, but I'm gonna try to ask you a question about it.
Probably
But
for the best. Don't worry.
But do you already have like a particular kind of beer like that you want to like bring to people, or is that something you need to like do more research on?
I'd say that there are definitely styles and cultures that I'd want to bring to people. I definitely think like Germany has a very specific culture that is very centered around pilsners and what they call Helles. Helles just means light, so it's like light beers. They actually tend to be relatively full-bodied. I mean, I guess for you, I don't know, but for the people listening that are beer drinkers, a full-bodied beer with sometimes a sort of a tinge of sweetness and a lot less hop bitterness or hop bite than a pilsner would typically have. On a German scale, pilsners are considered quite hoppy and bitter. For any North American that drinks craft beer, I mean, it's not even comparable. But anyway, that's kind of what it is here. I do think like cultures should also if they have their own beer styles and own beer culture. I think that's great, and I think that should be fostered more, as opposed to this globalization of every beer style, that every brewery has to have an IPA. Every IPA has to have there's an American IPA, and drinkers want that. I mean, I think IPAs are great, but I also am totally fine if a country wants to or a culture wants to hold on to their thing. But I think we could all do with being introduced to new cultures and things for new cultures. So very specifically, I don't think anybody needs, or I don't think the American beer culture needs any help spreading the word, because it's doing a fine job worldwide. But I think more people need to, or I think people would benefit from more exposure to English beer culture and Belgian beer culture still. I think those are two countries that, I mean, could do with more exposure. I mean, a lot of people know about Belgian beer and I think English ales are sort of, I mean, I'd say a lot of American ales have this sort of lineage in English ales, but nowadays there's a very sort of special and particular scene in England, and so there's specific styles which are kind of on the lighter range of beers, so like lower percentage, sort of like a lot more delicate, I would say, in flavor, that are just absolute bangers. So for example, like an English bitter or a mild ale, which is even, I wouldn't say it's dying completely in the UK, but like, it's very hard to get a good mild, even in many parts of England. So I would love to be able to bring styles like that to a wider audience. And like, I actually like really like the question, because I'm very, very passionate about like bringing good beer to people who like to drink beer, and not just people who like to pay money to sit around with a bunch of other people that like to drink beer.
People who actually like can appreciate it.
Yeah, like you go into a bar and like maybe you're not like a big beer drinker or whatever, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna try this thing. And you're like, hey, this tastes really good. or maybe it doesn't taste very good to you, and then you try something else and it does. Like I really like the idea of beer just becoming like a more normalized special drink as opposed to this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know. Beer is so normalized as a drink, but like I just like the idea of like sharing a beer with a friend more than the actual beer itself. And if a nice sort of different beer can go along with that for a reasonable price, I'm all for it.
So,
Yeah.
I'm not sure how like beer culture compares from like I guess from America to like Berlin or well other cultures in general. But like, do some people just buy drinks just to have something to drink instead of actually something that tastes like good or like?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I think I think there's a lot of people who like to say that they drink beer or alcohol because they like
Mm-hmm.
to have a nice drink.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are definitely people like that for sure, but I mean, there's that element of, it feels good. um and some people like to have one or two and give, there's a slight buzz and it's relaxing after work or whatever. And some people are binge drinkers and can't control themselves or alcoholics.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a happy medium somewhere, probably more on the end of one or two drinks after work or something to, just
Mm-hmm.
um I mean, sometimes different situations call for different things. So,
Sure, sure.
this month is not a particularly good month for my wallet. I think a lot of us are feeling that. Christmas is around the corner.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
maybe instead of getting that beer that I like for 220 at the corner store across the street from me, I'm going to take the
Mm-hmm.
one that's 180,
Mm-hmm.
If I'm feeling really broke, maybe I'm going to go for the 141. That's what my
Yeah.
friend drinks on Mondays when we hang out. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Yeah, that makes sense.
yeah.
Um, so let's talk about streaming. So how did you first get
Yeah.
like introduced to like Twitch?
So it's funny because like for a long time, Twitch was like I wasn't like a Twitch person or really into Twitch, but I
Mm-hmm.
can say that I was into Twitch quite early on. I didn't realize how early it was until I started streaming.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw that people only started joining Twitch around the pandemic. Like a lot of people that I know in the
Mm-hmm.
communities that I hang out in, they didn't really even know what Twitch was until maybe 2018, 19.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
got into Twitch. I think I knew of it. I didn't know it in the Justin TV days. I mean, that's like way before my time. But
Mm-hmm.
I think I started watching. I don't know if my account, I'd have to check. I don't know if my account, does it say here? I actually have it open. February 25th, 2014. So my account was created then. I was watching before then, but I didn't have an account. I would just
Mm-hmm.
there were specific streams that I would go to. So I guess like early 2014, late 2013 is when I started watching Twitch.
Mm-hmm.
I had moved to. Wait, that doesn't make sense. I moved in 2014. I moved in 2014 at the end of the year. That's crazy. So I was watching. I must have been watching Twitch before I moved to Montreal.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so back when you were in, was it, I don't know,
Uh,
Vienna or
no, no,
Berlin?
no, no. I had finished. I must have. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I had finished my degree, or I was
Mm-hmm.
finishing my degree, and I was probably watching Twitch. I think yeah, I have an idea of it now. So I came back to Montreal at the
Mm-hmm.
end of 2013, or sort of like summer 2013, late summer 2013, and then I had my last year of my bachelor's,
Mm-hmm.
and I moved in with a friend who I had played a lot of League of Legends with. I started playing with him when I was in Vienna because my roommate in Vienna, he played League of Legends, so I started playing with him. And then when I found out
Mm-hmm.
that this really really good friend of mine back home in Montreal also played, I started playing with him, and then I got in with this group of friends, these gamer friends and stuff. And he's also like a very good real life friend. Has been
Mm-hmm.
a great friend for ages. But with him, I sort of met these other guys, and we were playing a lot of League of Legends. And that's how I heard of Twitch. I started watching streamers play League of Legends back in. So this must have been like late 2013. I made my account in
Mm-hmm.
2014 to watch League of Legends stuff or to be able to follow to make it easier.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I started. And then very, very quickly, I was like, well, hey, what the hell? Like, I like You know, I like watching old school games, so I was like looking for old school games, and I think maybe it was like through YouTube or something that I had found like certain streamers or whatever it was. But anyway, I landed on Cheese. I guess he was Cheese05 at the time, but Cheese, who's I guess most prominent, most famous, most well-known Super Mario 64 speedrunner. He doesn't have the record anymore. His main record was 120 star, that was his category. But I mean, at the time, he was just dominating. The record did go back and forth and stuff, but basically, I started watching him almost religiously. I mean, like, if I was at home and I was chilling and he was streaming, I was watching. And if I wasn't, I was like maybe searching for SM64 streamers, but then I wouldn't really watch. And his times lined up really well with when I happened to be sitting at my desk.
Okay.
That's how I actually got into Twitch, really. I would say, like, I heard of it through my friend who played League of Legends, who was watching League of Legends, and then I signed up for it. But really, like, my interest in Twitch started right from the get-go. It was speedrunning. Yeah.
And when... Sorry, go ahead.
Just SM64, I meant. Like, speedrunning that specifically.
Yeah. And after that point, when did you start getting interested in Kaizo? And sorry, really quick.
Yeah, go for
again,
it.
For those of you who don't know what Kaizo is, basically, it's not just for Super Mario World, but in this case, we're talking about Super Mario World, where users will take the original assets of Super Mario World and make their own levels and hacks out of it. So yeah, when did you get interested in watching like those kind of streams?
Yeah, so I would say, I mean, I don't know, year or two of SM64, and then I started kind of like thinking, like, SM64 I grew up on. I love that game. It was one of the first games I owned on N64. I think it was actually the first game that I owned, which was my first console that I bought. I got a SNES later. And so I was watching that, like, this is cool. And I was like, oh, there must be like other things. And the problem is with SMW, Super Mario World and Super Mario Bros. 3, when you search in those categories, I mean, nowadays things are a little bit different, but back in the day, like, 2016, 2015 and stuff, searching Super Mario Bros. 3, I mean, if Mitch Flower Power was not on, there was maybe 3 people, 3 different streamers streaming to like 2 people or whatever. The category was dead. When he streamed, all of a sudden there's 500 people watching this game. So I think I just happened to look at bad times, and I was like, okay, well, this game's dead. Nobody's playing it. I didn't really understand that if you want to watch retro games, the retro category is probably where you should go. Now, I would say that Super Mario World and Super Mario Bros. 3 both are established categories, or established games enough that you could search them at any given time, and there will be people. Super Mario World, 100%, there's always going to be people, or at least for now. Super Mario Bros. 3, I think, is still tricky, So I searched those because those are the games that I was kind of most passionate about. Even though they were games that I would like always come back to, but they weren't like games that I played seriously, or there was no speed running ever that I thought I would be doing or whatever. I think I ended up landing on Mitch Flower Power. At some point I started watching him. I can't honestly really remember, but around the time I discovered him was around the same time that I started watching Grand Pooh Bear and Barbarous King. Most people just call him Barb. And a lot of Super Mario Maker 1 was going on. I sort of got into that, and I was like, damn, this is the thing that I didn't know existed, that I've never knew that I've always wanted. There was also like GDQ videos that had gotten suggested to me on YouTube that I watched. So watching speedruns of Dram World. Yeah, man, it was like pretty bad last night, man. Oh, I guess you're on mobile? Like, I was feeling like quite a bit of pressure. I still think I was playing like decently, but fuck yes, baby. Yes. Woo! Oh my god. Oh my god, what the fuck? Where's the camera? Where did it go? I freaked out and shut the camera off. Oh my god. Oh my god. Are you fucking kidding me? Oh my god. What the fuck? How's that even possible? I almost missed it too. Did you see that? I almost missed it. Oh my god. Watching speedruns of God, I guess at the time. Yeah, I guess at the time would have been Drown World. Oh yeah, the Kaizo games as well. I think that's how it was. It was sort of I SMB3 through Grand Pooh Bear, who used to run SMB3, and Mitch, and then I found Barb, and then at some point Grand Pooh World 2 came out, which is a pretty notorious hack, and his stream started really exploding around that time. That's when I started watching him, and it was through that specifically, that sort of wave of new players and new streamers and new viewers, that I got into Kaizo. I found the Grand Pooh World 2 clip compilation. It was clips of different streamers playing the hack for the first time. And that's where I started discovering all sorts of new streamers. So from that time, I followed streamers like Shovda, streamers like Hank Sinatra, streamers like Tofu and Laser Belch, a whole bunch of RB Machoke, like all these people, some that stream, some that don't anymore. And it's kind of funny now that I know Hank Sinatra, I know Shovda, I know Laser, I know Tofu, and I've been following those guys, streamers, for ages. And it's just kind of funny that now I'm friends.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
pretty cool.
Shovda, she still streams. Hank, he still streams. RB Machoke, he I think started streaming again for Grand Pooh World 3 and stuff, but some streamers like kind of have come and gone, and I've been following them for ages. And that was the explosion for me. That's how I got into like the big side of Twitch for me.
And relating back to Grand Pooh World 2, so Grand Pooh World 3 just came out like a few weeks ago, and you were able to get some clips in there as well, right?
Yeah. It's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool thing, yeah.
Yeah. And so next question is, I'm only remembering this because of I saw Siv's question earlier. Also, if you want to say "fuck you, Siv," you can do that now if you want.
Fuck you, Siv.
But yeah, he reminded me that a lot of your streaming was of Storks, right? I think is it Storks, Elephants, and Crocodiles?
Man, I always forget. Storks and Apes. Oh my god, did I say Storps? I think I said Storps. Storks and Apes and Crocodiles.
Okay, there you go. Okay.
Yeah. God, I'm glad I remembered that on the fly, because if I didn't, that would have been pretty embarrassing.
Yeah. How long have you been trying to get the world record for?
October 2020. Oh gosh, yeah, it's been 3 years now. Yeah, October 2020. Now, back then, October 2020, I knew where my skills were and I knew where my skills weren't, and I wanted the record and I wanted to work towards it, but I haven't been trying to get it since then. I should say, for my own pride.
Yeah, and to be fair, like, you haven't just been playing Storks, you've also been playing other Kaizo hacks, you've been playing some NES games sometimes, so
for sure. But just like my skills, like, I mean, I was in no position to contest the world record back then, but it was always my goal, from like even before I started running it. I remember telling I didn't want to like announce it on stream that I was going to speedrun this hack. It was kind of a thing back then. I remember talking to Nintendesi and Orca, both telling them like, I want to start speedrunning Storks. I think I'm going to do it. That was my first dive into speedrunning, and I specifically was saying, I want that world record. That was my goal right from the get-go. Yeah. So yeah, it's been more than 3 years now.
I assume you still want the record, right?
Yes.
Okay. And I feel like you've made a lot of progress. Like, what are you like? Actually, I'm gonna look you up right now. I wonder what your place is right now.
I'm third with I think 30-24.
Damn. Yeah. That last, I don't know how many more seconds you have to cut, but
it's a lot now. It's looking at having to cut off a full 3 minutes now.
Dang. Okay. Yeah, that's a lot for a speedrun.
Yeah, it's a pretty the record now is I need. I basically I realized like the way that I was approaching speed running and the way I was approaching that hack specifically, it was not going to work. It's possible it could have worked if the record had stayed where it was, but the record is now in a place where I can't. I wouldn't be able to touch it with the strats that I'm doing. So that's kind of the reason I decided to take a step back from the hack to sort of clear my head, and I'm going to come back with a more focused.
That's fair. Like
more
a
focused
temporary.
attitude.
It's like a temporary tactical retreat.
I'm gonna bust out the Excel sheet and the Word document, and I'm gonna write in every little detail. You know, that's gonna
nice.
We'll see how it goes.
And what is it about that hack that had you so hell bent on like speedrunning it?
It's just a legendary hack. My personal road with it was I played Storks extremely early. Like I played it way too early. I should not have played it when I did. Back then I was a grinder. Back then I was, I'd just come off of beating Dram World 100%. So I spent 101 hours in what we call in the butthole. There's a level, a notorious level at the end of Super Dram World, which is a ROM hack made by Pangea Panga. It's like a absolute notorious famous hack, and this level specifically was super notorious for basically just stonewalling people for ages. And really, like, I was not prepared for it. I should not have played it that early, and I certainly shouldn't have done the butthole that early. So it took me 101 hours to beat it, and then I moved on to Storks right away. There was this method that was kind of referred to as QQ-AIDS, which was Quickie World 2, Quickie World 1, Akogare, Invictus, Dram World, and then Storks as your sort of, how to get good in Kaizo. And I'm not endorsing that route. I'm not saying you should or shouldn't do it. It's the route that I chose. I didn't know what I was doing, and I just kind of thought, what the hell, sure. And those hacks look good. Storks was the conclusion, and I just picked it up, and it was the first time playing Kaizo where I was like, holy shit, this is what Kaizo can be. And I still have a very, very soft place for that hack. It was like everything that I'd been working towards, and I thought that hack was Grand Prix World 2, which is why I started playing Kaizo in the first place, was so that I could play and beat Grand Prix World 2. But I wanted to save it, so I played Storks earlier than I should have, because I would say they're probably similar in difficulty. I think like comparing difficulty is always a little bit strange. They're also extremely different hacks. But they're kind of in a similar, I would say they're in a similar sort of level of difficulty. And I played this hack, and it just absolutely, it absolutely wrecked me. But it completely blew my mind. I just couldn't believe that a game could be like that. It was so special and so early from 2017. People, I think, are starting to realize now, because it got a little bit of a revival. But some people just, I think, don't realize how monumental that hack is. It is so fundamentally important for all these modern Kaizo hacks that came after, even like I'd say after 2019, even. So many of the tricks and the gimmicks and the sort of styles of level creation that we have now came straight from that hack. At least I believe that.
It'll probably be hard to explain, but are you able to say, like, give examples of that? Like,
oh geez, we're gonna have to, I'm gonna have to give you some clips of that for sure.
Yes.
One big thing is, so Morsel, who's the person who created Storks and Apes and Crocodiles, Morsel used some ASM, which is what we used to refer to. ASM is as an assembly code, which is used to change the way Mario works. Sometimes these can be used for patches to fix what we would call our issues in the game. That's not necessarily an issue, but to patch certain things. But some of these patches can be giving Mario special abilities or changing certain physics in the game to do certain things. And the most famous ASM, this could even be across the board, was one that Morsel, he made He actually made it for a level design contest, but he then
Mhm.
incorporated that level into Storks. And it's called Motor Skills. So it allows Mario to change his
Mm.
jump type in the air. So if you're in
Mm,
the
mhm.
air and you're doing a regular jump, if you press A, you all of a sudden are spin jumping. If you press B again, you're regular jumping again.
Mm,
And
mhm.
this allows for all sorts of really intricate and cool setups that you couldn't otherwise think up.
Right.
And like that's an example of like direct inspiration of here is a specific sort of gimmick that Morsel made, and people have been using it for years in their hacks and are still implementing it in their hacks today. It's an extremely popular gimmick.
Mm, mhm.
But one of the reasons I'd say so people will talk about those kind of using those kind of gimmicks. People refer to those hacks as chocolate hacks,
Mm, mhm.
or chocolatey or whatever. And
Mhm.
things that don't do that are more sort of vanilla style, which is what a lot of Kaizo hacks up to that point were like. And
Mm.
Morsel kind of unleashed this big wave of chocolate hacks.
Ah, okay, okay, yeah.
But in terms of like even design philosophy, I mean, this is like getting a lot more intricate, I think, for getting
Sure.
into it like that. But
Mhm.
Morsel had really sort of like ball breaking kind of obstacles and puzzly setups that took like a lot of figuring out. Once you figured it out though, and you're like, there's no way that works. Holy shit, all of a sudden it works.
Mhm.
And the reason I wanted to mention motor skill specifically is that even though
Mhm.
the gimmick is like sort of very classic. Okay, you bounce off this Koopa, bounce off another Koopa, and now it's a
Mhm.
spiny. So now I need to change my jump to a spin jump. Dude, I didn't fucking know that some goddamn piranha plants come and they cock block you, you know? Like, fuck off, man. Well, I avoided the thing and I was like, I'm free now. So I start climbing up and these goddamn piranha plants just. And it's sort of very sort of press A, press B, press A, press B. And there are cool setups like that. There's lots of cool hacks and levels that have used that. But what Morsel did in the original Motor Skills, which is the first iteration of this thing ever, was really test the way you think about jumping and managing your jump in the air. So in
Mhm.
Kaizo, I mean in Super Mario World in general, there's this thing that we call regrabbing. So if Mario is in the air and you're holding B or
Mhm.
A, I mean if you're holding jump, Mario
Mhm,
falls
mhm.
slower. And if you let
Right.
go, Mario starts falling. And this applies
Mhm.
all the time. I mean, obviously you know all this, Minister, but
Mhm.
it allows you to have sort of crazy amounts of unprecedented control over Mario. And all of a
Mhm,
sudden
mhm.
now, if you introduce motor skills, the thing is if you're trying to sort of let go and repress A or B, that could affect your sort of jump style.
Right.
But he would do all sorts of crazy things, like in the fourth room of this motor skills, which is the last level. There's a place where you have to pick up a block, and you pick up the block um, by pressing grab. But grab, by doing that, it automatically you're then all of a sudden in the air, and you have a very short distance where you have to reach this saw, and in
Mhm,
order to
mhm.
reach the saw, you have to press A. So it's instead of this like, oh well, I press B to initiate the jump, and then I press A to initiate the jump. You're actually pressing grab to initiate the fall, which you're
Mhm,
falling
mhm.
in a regular jump, and then you now have to press A to switch to spin jump. And there's
Mhm.
all sorts of this like managing your jump and when to switch. And I think a lot of people were really inspired by his sort of style of like just like levels that we just had never seen before. I think Invictus is a really good example of a very
Mhm.
different style hack. Like I wouldn't call does Cook's stuff. I mean, I hate talking about stuff like this because if anybody listens to this and then well that's not true, but Juz has his own style, you know. Like I love Invictus. I think it's a phenomenal hack, and Juz
Mhm.
explicitly references Storks as an inspiration. He speedran Storks. He loves that hack. He's mentioned it. I've heard him say it, and there's
Mhm.
references to Storks in Invictus. But Invictus is a totally different hack. So it's it's a different style of hack, and that's what's so special about this Storks hack for me is that it just gave so many people, it opened the door to a different way of thinking about hack making, and I think we're still seeing that legacy today, and we are. I mean, I can say that with confidence because Barbarous King just released Grand Poo World 3 just about a month ago, and he mentions Morsel in the credits. I haven't gotten to the credits yet, but I've seen them. He mentions Morsel, so Morsel's his influence is still it's still being felt.
Yeah.
And this hack was a legendary hack that people didn't even know if it was viable to beat it RTA, so without save states. And then there were some legendary runs of that hack, and I wanted to be the one. I wanted to be the one to do it, because that's the thing with Kaizo. If you with a lot of hacks, if you just are the one that plays that game over and over, eventually you're going to be the one to get it, because there's just not that much competition. And when I started playing the hack, the world record was held by someone who's no longer in the community. And I wanted to beat that time because it was considered this legendary run that couldn't be beaten. I've beaten the time. I don't have the record, but I at least have beaten the time that I set out to beat originally. So I guess, yeah, maybe that's a good way to sum it up. Why that hack? Why that break now? But
yeah.
It's
funny. So I watched you run Storks so much that I tried it for myself. And I gave up in the middle of it because I got to the level where I think it's you're on the dolphins, you're going up. There's saws you have to dodge.
You're
I'm like,
close,
this is just
man. You're close to the end. That level's it's brutal. Anyway, yeah, continue. Yeah.
yeah. It felt like, I don't know. For me, it just felt like I just have to like memorize where the saws were, because I just couldn't remember, or I couldn't react fast enough to where the saws are going to be.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's what caused me to give up with that hack.
It's wild. It's sort of wild because I feel like the dolphin level, you've literally gotten through, I think, all the hardest levels except for there's a sort of a gauntlet at the end of the. I mean, there's a bit of a gauntlet at the end of the level, just for the people that don't know the hack. That's particularly brutal, but I mean, if you've gotten to that point, you can beat it. But yeah, it's crazy. The dolphin level is the one. The dolphin level looks a lot easier, I think, than it is.
Yeah.
It's ridiculously difficult. Another classic with Morsel, and I mean, you experienced this then firsthand, is that when it's done well, it looks so easy and it looks so good.
It does. Yeah.
When you're figuring it out, it honestly just looks like a hot steaming pile of bullshit. I mean, it is just so like, how the hell am I supposed to do that? And then when you get the speedrun strats down and you learn the cycles, it's crazy. And it's kind of wild because typically I'm not into that kind of stuff in hacks. I don't like obtuse, puzzly kind of garbage where it's sort of die to learn. Like, I'm not into that. But with Morsel, there's some magic to it. I'm really happy to hear though that you played at least that far. Like, honestly, getting past the fire flower level, which is what is it, level 12 maybe? No, 12. No, 8, 9, something like that. I can't even remember. And then the block spawn level, the vertical block spawn. The fact that you even got through those levels, I mean, to me, that's already like, that's it. Like, I sign off already on that. Those are the hardest levels for me.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe I'll go back to it, but
yeah, let me know.
Yeah.
I'd like to see that. I don't know if you play you would play on stream or off, but
oh yeah, I would still play on stream.
Good. Yeah. Perfect.
I have another. This is kind of a random question. It's because I just started another job and we were talking about Kaizo.
Yeah.
And my coworker said like, oh yeah, it looks just like Mario Maker. I was like, oh god. So how can I talk to you about this? Yeah. And I was trying to explain to him, and I couldn't explain it like in enough detail. But what I said was that Mario Maker's physics are more generalized, but I couldn't say specifically like how they're more generalized exactly. Like,
yeah, because the problem is every time we have this conversation with people who don't play Kaizo or even who don't watch Kaizo, it just basically sounds like we're essentially being elitist, right? At least that's how I feel when I talk about it.
Yeah.
I try my best to sort of, when I say it, is just like, it just doesn't feel like the game. There's nothing wrong with it, because also, I mean, Mario Maker, just as skilled. I mean, there's people who play Mario Maker as their main game that could absolutely blow me out of the water in SMW. So I'm not about saying one's better or worse. I mean, I
Right.
obviously much prefer SMW, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's why I play it. But yeah, one of the things I sort of just, for me, it's like it just doesn't feel right. It's
Mm-hmm.
just a completely different game. But yeah, how
So
did it go in the end? Did you manage to sort of get explain it in a way, or I feel like I've never
well,
managed myself, so
the one thing that I did explain was that it is much easier for someone to make a level in Mario Maker than it is for like for a Kaizo hack, like using lunar magic and like
yeah.
assembly. And once I explained that, he at least understood that much. But yeah, I wasn't able to explain what the difference was exactly.
Yeah, I mean the entire culture is very different because of course the making is surrounded completely or completely centered around this the site that we have SMW Central
Right. Yeah.
.net, which is where people download resources for hacks and the
Mm-hmm.
patches to patch the wrong stuff. It's a totally just like the it's a totally different style of it now. Of course, like maker
Mm-hmm.
communities, right, are like Team Shell is a classic example of like a really
Mm-hmm.
cool Mario Maker community that also
Mm-hmm.
migrated to SMW eventually
Mm-hmm.
to make hacks and stuff. But yeah,
And speaking of making levels, you're like kind of on and off with making like your own hack levels, right?
yeah, I feel like that's going to be like this badge that I wear forever. The sort of perpetually making a hack. Honestly, if I'm being perfectly honest, I don't think I'm ever
Yeah.
going to get it done.
Okay, that's fair.
Because I'm trying to at least be sort of
Mm-hmm.
cautiously realistic.
Okay. Yeah.
But I'll be very very bitter with myself if I don't ever make a hack. I think that
Mm-hmm.
it's a really important for me to
Mm-hmm.
finish that, to sort of get that out there. That would be. I mean, the Storks world record. That would
Mm-hmm.
be a proper fitting end, I think, for like my goals, I guess, whether
Mm-hmm.
that's
Mm-hmm.
stream or Kaiser or however. I mean, it's all mixed up for me. But
Mm-hmm.
another one is a hack, like getting the world record in Storks. Um, yeah, I mean, I've already achieved the playing Grand Prix World 2 and beating Casio. Those
Mm-hmm.
were goals at some point, but I mean, that's in the
Mm-hmm.
past. But finishing it and releasing a hack that I'm proud of and getting the Storks world record, I mean, those are two things that like yeah, I mean, it just won't feel complete. But I mean, do we ever feel like we've completed our goals for
No,
real?
there's
Like,
always something to do. Yeah.
you know? I mean, I never thought I would
Um.
play at a speedrunning event. I never thought that I would
Mm-hmm.
showcase, my speedrunning skills at a speedrunning event. I never thought I'd even speedrun. So, now I've done that. I mean,
Yeah.
that's like a goal that I guess I would have added if I had even thought it was realistic. But,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I don't have like, I don't have unrealistic goals like I'm going to be a rock star anymore. So,
Mm-hmm.
being a speedrunner at a speedrunning event, that's not a realistic goal in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But hey, I've done it now, so there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
um. So I wanted to tell you what it is that I like about your stream. What I think is good about your stream, and really, I think it's you as far as like you have a lot of opinions
Oh, I
and
certainly do.
and I think it's good. It's not necessarily opinions people agree with, but people like to hear like your rationale. Like actually, even just today, you were giving your opinions on he has this redeem called the Canadian Heritage Minute or something.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
is that
yeah,
what it's
yeah,
called?
yeah, yeah.
And
That's the one.
there was one about the evolution of the Canadian flag. Um, and like one of them had, I don't remember what you called it, but there was something in the corner.
The Union Jack. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Which is
Um,
the UK flag.
mm,
Yeah.
and yeah, I think your opinion on it was like that it was fine on its own, but like why put it in the corner? Like,
Yeah, I mean, it just seems ridiculous, right? Like, why are
yeah,
you putting some other country's flag on your flag? You get your own flag, Design your own
yeah.
thing. It's complex enough.
And then like
Yeah.
shortly after, someone asked you about the Brazilian flag. I didn't get to hear what you said about that, but then I think you talked about that for a bit.
I think aesthetically I'm all right with it, but there's too many
Hmm.
stars, and I mean any sort of words on a flag for me are
Yeah.
just unacceptable. So
And yeah, in
Mm.
general, I think you're good at like telling stories, giving opinions, and I think that's why people like being in your stream and talk to you and hearing about you or hearing from you.
I
Um,
I'm happy to hear that.
mhm,
So I guess that's the most important part. Even though it's funny because we've been talking about goals and we've been talking about Kaizo and stuff.
mhm,
Kaizo is the reason I started streaming. It was kind of an accident. I just wanted to
mhm,
document. I just wanted to document what I was doing. But in the
mhm,
end, I don't. I mean, I could stream. I could stream repairing controllers, or I don't know, like I wouldn't stream music stuff because I'm too embarrassed about that. But I could stream anything. I
mhm.
don't really care. I just for me, it's community
Right. Yeah.
and just hanging out with cool people that I've met. You know, like
Mhm,
met a ton of people. I mean, I met you as well streaming, right? And
mhm,
I've
mhm.
gotten
Yeah.
to know
Exactly.
you through my stream, through other streams. Well, actually, I guess we both met on Jay Foddick's stream, probably, right?
Yeah, actually, I'm glad you mentioned that because before we get into questions, like other friends, chatters asking your server, I
Yeah,
want to mention how I came across Zanian. So I've been like watching, following Zanian for like 2.5 years,
yeah,
and it was initially I was in JFOD Extreme. I can't remember. I know he's Australian. I don't know if he's in like
yeah.
Korea
He
or
lives in Korea right now, but yeah, he's
okay,
originally
okay.
from. I think he's from Melbourne, but I know he
Hmm.
lived there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't know if he was playing Dark Souls. I don't remember if he was playing Kaizo, one of those. And then he raided into you, and then I stuck around after that.
Yeah, I feel like so there was like kind of a morning crew. I remember I was working at a translation job after I
Hmm.
finished my masters, and this God, it must have been like early pandemic days. So we're talking like April, May or so, 2020.
Hmm.
And it was, it was like searching for streamers playing Kaizo or like other things. And I found this Jay Foddick guy. And I remember it was, you would hang out a lot there.
Hmm.
Nathan MG used to be there quite a bit. I know Desi used to hang out there quite a bit. With
Hmm.
all these
Hmm.
streamers that we know and friends. And yeah, I feel like for months, like we knew who each other were, right? But I had no idea
Hmm.
you streamed. And I when I really know someone well and we talk about things openly, it's fine. But I don't usually
Right.
try to bring up that I stream in a chat. Also, Jay didn't know
Yeah.
I streamed even for a long time either, I think. And I just
Hmm.
basically, he was my go to morning guy. I used to
Hmm.
watch him all the time because it's just, yeah, just really chill, nice dude. And
Hmm.
that's where I met you, Minister.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then eventually, I mean, God, that's always how it happens, right? Just
Hmm.
that's the community
Meeting with other
stuff.
streamers. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm in your server. I'm gonna ask. Okay, I know this question is a joke. I'm still gonna ask it anyway. But Savardicus asks, yes, please ask why you don't have the Storks world record yet. Smilers.
uh,
Um,
Fuck you, Civ.
yeah, and also I'm gonna give you a double fuck you, Civ, because your question is what we basically just talked about in this podcast.
Yeah, come on, man.
But yeah, he asked what were your motivations for moving to Germany? Why did you start streaming? Yeah, we already talked about all that, man.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
thanks for the
Germany.
questions.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
Germany
yeah.
was really for Berlin too. Yeah,
Hmm.
specifically. Funny, huh? I sometimes I
Um,
forget myself, so it's kind of
mhm.
nice that you ask me all these questions.
Yeah, yeah. And then luckily I looked in advance because Discord is truncating all the usernames, but
Yeah.
Pweeps asked, what made you decide to switch from linguist to brewer, and how can those two relate to a certain extent?
Oh.
I think that's a good question,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah, that is a really good question, specifically the relate part, because I think
Mm-hmm.
I can kind of bullshit that one a little bit, but also give a semi serious answer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the switch was pretty seamless. I studied linguistics because, yeah, I mean, I found this program. University in Germany is mostly free. Like it depends. There are some private universities, but like the big, serious public universities are free. I wanted to
Mm-hmm.
move to Berlin. I found this program. I got in. I packed my bags and I went.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it was kind of an accident. I mean, I was interested in linguistics. Like I had come off of this semester in Vienna this year in Vienna, and
Mm-hmm.
I got really into dialectology, which is basically studying the study of dialects, but also
Mm-hmm.
the attitudes specifically towards dialects. So that's an aspect that I was really interested in. So what is it that people think about language? What do they think they know about language? What do they think other people know? Um, or like for example, like I mean, I think everybody speaks language. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, sure there are some exceptions. Basically, we all speak languages, even if it's just one. So I think we
Right.
probably all think we have an opinion about language that is, pretty universal.
Mm-hmm.
And the nice thing with linguistics is you can study those as attitudes even, and they're not always true. Things that we take for granted. I mean, in any field that we study, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
heck, you've studied philosophy. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, and so I did that, but I mean, it was just for fun. I wanted to be in Germany. I wanted to be here. And I was very fascinated by these topics. I wasn't sure yet if I wanted to do a PhD or not. Turns out I didn't. But I kind of always knew as a career. I mean, at that point, 2014, around that time, I already knew that I didn't know if I was going to pull it off, but I wanted to be a brewer. I wanted to make beer professionally. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
know if I had what it takes, sort of mentally and physically, because it's quite a demanding job and be very repetitive and very arduous, and it's physically quite demanding depending on where you work as well. It could be a lot of bending over, cleaning stuff, fixing things here and there, lifting malt sacks, lifting
Mm-hmm.
hop what do they call them, hop barrels, hop barrels, I don't know, bales, hop bales, there,
Mm-hmm.
hop sacks as well. It can be quite a physically demanding job. I know. I mean, people who are younger than me that worked as brewers that have back problems already. So I wasn't really sure, but it was kind of always on my mind. And the problem was, um, when I was nearing the end of my studies, I found out that in
Mm-hmm.
order to stay in Germany afterwards, to get the permit to stay to
Mm-hmm.
work, you had to stay in your field. And I didn't want to do that, so I worked as a translator, but it was sort of something I wasn't sure. I kind of gave it a shot, but I always knew I wanted to be a brewer. And sort of the hard pivot was, in order to stay in Germany, pretty much my only option was get into this degree, this
Mm-hmm.
program, which is the chemical engineering in beer brewing. So I think it might have been a more gradual pivot that's sort of like, hey, I've always wanted to be a beer brewer, and I try to work at breweries and stuff, but it's sort of, I feel like, I guess that's really defined. Like, I talk about it so much on stream because it's what I'm doing right now full time.
Mm-hmm.
Is I'm a student in this field. So I don't know if there was like a specific decision. I mean, I had to make the decision, but it was sort of like always kind of there. I think I
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't separate them in that sense. I
Mm-hmm.
think in the way that they relate is that my interest in linguistics came from an interest in different cultures and different countries, different languages, and
Mm-hmm.
that interest got coupled with different. Just I like drinking, and I like drinking in different places, whether that's different countries or in different languages.
Yeah.
And it was honestly through my studying literature, studying philosophy, studying linguistics, and being able to study abroad, having this privilege to travel cheaply because of my mom's job, that I
Mm-hmm.
was able to go to so many places. And what's one thing that people do everywhere, all around the world? Well, they eat. And I'd say a close second is they drink. Not everybody
Mm-hmm.
drinks, obviously, and not every culture drinks, but most do, and people like to enjoy that. So as a result, I've gone around and seen things. So I think in some ways that they're related because, well, some people think of beer brewing, and I mean a lot of people, even in the field, think of it as this industrial thing, Pilsner brewing. I think of it very much as like a diverse thing, in the same way that I see my interest in languages. So I
Mm-hmm.
think I think I would say that they relate that way. Yeah.
Um, this might my follow-up question to that might be too like academic, so if it is, we can just skip it. But
Oh yeah, go
um,
for
I,
it.
w- I was wondering if there are any like linguistic concepts or paradigms that you've seen like exemplified in like as a like either in brewing or studying brewing.
Hmm. No, honestly, not really.
No,
I,
okay, all
I
right, just curious.
it's this engineering degree is so unbelievably far from my other interests.
Mm-hmm.
I try my best to sort of enjoy whatever it is that I'm doing and whatever it is that I'm learning, but this is really on the absolute limits and borders of what I can even tolerate as interesting. I honestly it's not that I
You
hate
just
this degree. It's
okay.
starting to get a little bit better now. I mean, it started a while ago once I got rid of all of the sort of like 101 courses in all the sort of sciences,
Mm-hmm.
all the 101 chemistry and physics and math and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really just testing the limits of like what I think is even something I want to spend my time doing. I just, oh
Yeah.
god, it feels like the things that I cared about in education and in learning in general, it's sort of any sort of intellectual pursuits, they're just completely absent. And I'm not trying to denigrate engineering or the sciences. Like, this is a fault that I maybe am having. I can see the passion that the other students have because I think
Mm-hmm.
maybe they're a bit younger and they this is their first study program or whatever. But I just
Mm-hmm.
I'm just not. It's not the kind of studying for me. I guess a lot of it is just getting through the classes, writing the exam, and then moving on. That's it. It's done. It's behind me. I passed it. It's over. Yeah.
Is it like a lot of memorization, or is it like
Yeah, pretty much actually. I was gonna say, well,
mm,
no, but yeah, no, it's basically like, I mean, maybe this is like a German university thing as well. Like I
mm-hmm.
found this with my masters even too, but I feel like a lot of things are like very, very much based on the end credit thing. So you either have an essay you have to write or you have an exam. And like
Mm-hmm.
everything during the semester is pretty much just you can show up or you don't. And my degree, like honestly, like the students have a pretty good collection of materials and things that you need to know for your exams in a cloud that we have.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's like you go through there and you might even find old exams, and sometimes these exams are changed a lot and sometimes they're not changed much
Mm-hmm.
or at all. It's and
Like
it just feels like you're working towards passing the class. You're not working towards actually learning.
yeah.
Yeah, I
So
feel
I
like a lot of
was
people feel that way about university in
mhm.
general. Maybe I was just very lucky to study before. Don't know.
I can I can kind of relate as far as before I went into like coding or programming,
Yeah,
I was in nursing school, and so it
yeah,
was very just like memorize all of these various drugs, memorize their adverse reactions, their
yeah,
side effects, stuff like that. So I
yeah.
think it just might be just how the sciences are taught.
It's funny because you hear that a lot about chemistry, and I was really
Hmm.
terrified about that aspect because I mean it's chemical engineering, so I've had to do organic chemistry.
Hmm.
I'm now doing this class is like sort of intro to chemistry actually. The one
Hmm.
class intro class I still have left. There was a lot of just sort of general stuff, and then inorganic, and now we're on to organic as well. So I mean, it's
Mm,
most of it's fine. It's kind
yeah.
of funny because like I haven't gotten into any of the memorization stuff for that. I mean, surely you have to memorize some things. Like
Mm,
you need to know that a carbon atom tends to have four bonds.
hmm.
Or has four bonds, and if it has more or less, it's because something is up with it, right? Like in its natural
Hmm.
state, it's going to have four. Um, you're going to learn these kind of things, sure, but in general, like a lot of this stuff has been quite logical and things that they can learn to understand. I think the second you get to anything higher, like what you were doing, for example, sort of like higher levels of chemistry, oh, just the amount of like memorization of stuff. I mean, it's just I've seen stuff in the textbooks, and I'm just so grateful that I don't have to do anything that intense. Yeah, I hate memorizing things. I'm really bad at it, and I get really frustrated as well. Yeah,
And I guess also like with I assume if you were studying comparative literature, there's less memorizing, there's more actually just trying to understand it.
yeah,
Um, so it's definitely like a contrast.
yeah. And I mean, there's always going to be memorization of some sorts, right? But the way
Hmm.
you can combine that with understanding, right? Like if someone quizzes you on on Kant, for example, and you're like, oh shit, like I didn't do that. I was more into, I don't know, I was into
Hume.
metaphysics or well, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, Kant maybe did some metaphysics, but is it you know like you're or into like formal logic or things like that? Like, I don't
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
but it's sort of like you say you study philosophy, and then all of a sudden people want to talk to you about Kant, right? And it's like, okay,
Yeah.
whatever. But, you know, you might
Yeah.
have certain things that you've memorized, right? Like, okay, well, the
Mm-hmm.
ontological principles or things like that, and then all
Yeah.
of us you can list them. But the way that you sort of attach that to your sort of general like learning and knowledge, and I mean, you can make those kind of connections, and then it's not really
Right.
memorization
Yeah.
anymore, right? And
Association. Yeah.
yeah, and I've been kind of lucky. As frustrated as I was with chemistry at some point when I
Mm-hmm.
started, a lot of that stuff's really come back now. So a lot of like hop chemistry and
Mm-hmm.
a lot of chemistry. There's a lot of, I mean, yeast is very microbiology and stuff, but there's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
chemistry as well because there's certain like fermentation is I mean, yeah, it's part of biology, but it's also, you know, there's chemical reactions happening. Well,
Mm-hmm.
how the ethanol is then produced, right? And it starts like this and then turns into an
Mm-hmm.
aldehyde, and then it goes on and on and on. and
Mm-hmm.
and now understanding that stuff in context has actually been one of the more rewarding things.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah, totally an
Um.
aside to, I guess, what we're talking about, but it's nice for me to hear it because Jesus,
Yeah.
some days I get really down about it. Yeah.
Yeah. That's fair. Um. jQuery was asking, "What's the best beer you've had in Germany?"
Oof. Oh Jesus, I'm gonna upset somebody. I'm gonna upset somebody. Who's it gonna be? It's my own beer that I brewed. There you go. Easy answer. Easy clap. You know. No. I mean that's a scapegoat. That's a bullshit scapegoat answer. I mean, I actually probably would say that because I think that I made some really banging beers at some point. Best
All right.
beer.
Yeah. I
Honestly,
guess.
I gotta go with the
Mhm.
classic. So there's a beer that's brewed by Augustino, which is or Augustiner, some people would say.
Mhm.
But Augustina it's a Bavarian brewery, so not where I live, and their beer has gotten quite notorious all around the world. I think even like so, if people drink. If you go to like a German beer bar or something in the States, you're gonna see Augustina for sure.
Mhm.
It's got a really sort of nice bottle, well, and it's kind of it made the rounds in the sort of hipster beer bars, hipster bars here in Berlin.
Mhm.
I don't know how they've managed it, but it's kind of like it's a little bit of like this fancier beer. You'll see it at these places. I mean, I don't even really know how to describe it, but like Berlin chic is kind of, you walk into this place, the walls are kind of ghetto. There's a shit ton of candles that are probably made out of old liquor bottles and stuff. There's a bunch of like nice wooden tables and unmatching
Mhm.
furniture, all of which looks like it was picked off of the streets, but it was very,
Yeah.
very, very obviously curated by,
Mhm.
from some furniture dealer for way too much freaking money. And now you've got your nice little bar with atmosphere, and obviously everybody's smoking it.
Mhm.
And at this bar, they might not have beer on tap, and if they don't, you can guarantee that for €3 nowadays, probably 3.50, if not four, there's a bottle of Augustina in the fridge with your name on it. And I don't care. I don't care if that's if people want to say that it's a scene beer or anything. Whatever. That's one of my
Whatever.
go-tos. It's a Helles, so one of those beers I was saying before, a bit
Mhm.
full-bodied, and it's got a particular sweetness. It's just crisp. I don't know what it is about that beer, but I could drink it all day. I love it. It is an
Nice.
absolute banger, and I highly
Mhm.
recommend it if people can get their hands on it. It is possible that if you do get it in the States, that by that point it won't be any good anymore, just because
Mhm.
maybe the way that the distributors work, and then it's gone from cold to hot and it's been heated. But when you get it here, I'm sure it's better even in Bavaria on tap as well, fresh. They do have like releases, and it's the fresh batch or whatever that comes up to Berlin
Mhm.
and stuff. But when you get a good bottle of that, it's just I'm gonna have one of those after stream or after
Gonna
stream.
have that while you read
After
A Quiet American or The Quiet American, yeah.
yes, yeah.
And then last set of questions from Faf Guy. So perspective transition to playing on hitbox. Reasons, hurdles, advantages, disadvantages.
Should I show the hitbox? Should I bring it down?
Oh yeah, sure. Why not?
Let's get that. So I keep it up on my speaker. Right. So I've transitioned from controller. So I used to use here. I've got an old like the Super Famicom controllers. So what they had in Europe, Australia, and in Japan as well. I used to play on these. I started out on a PS2 controller, and then I moved to a PS4 controller. PS2 because I just had it lying around. That's one thing. If you're gonna play Kaizo, play on whatever the hell you want. Don't let anybody tell you you need to buy any equipment. Oh, I need a console. Oh, I need to use this controller. Oh, I can't use emulator. Bullshit. You want to play? Just get an emulator. Talk to people. There's plenty of resources out there. Come see Minister Gold. He also has experience with different controllers, hitbox, etc. Talk to me if you feel like it. Just pop in, ask me questions. If you don't feel like popping in, wasting your time on Twitch or whatever, you can message people on Discord as well. I'm available on Discord. I'll help anybody out. Then I switched to I had something in the interim, but basically I've been playing on this Super Nintendo controller for years, and then I switched to this hitbox. It was made by my friend back home. He made the wood for it, and the buttons. It's all custom and stuff. Just pop it back up there. The reason that I switched actually, so I kind of always was interested in. I was always interested in hitbox players. So Noble Tofu is kind of, I guess, the most notorious hitbox player in the community. He was the first big Kaizo player to make the switch, and I just always thought, hey, this is really cool. I used to play a lot of, before I had a Super Nintendo and before I had an NES, I used to play a lot of Mario and just Super Nintendo games in general on keyboard. So this is back when I'm like, 12, 13, 14. I don't know why I have an Allen key in my hand, but I just showed it to the camera. So if anyone's wondering, that's why.
That's what it looks like, yeah.
I'm always fiddling. Fidgeting and this and that. But yeah, the classic SNES 9X, which is one of these classic emulators, sort of D is A, C is B. I mean, just horrible positioning, not ideal, not at all why it was on Hitbox. But I sort of knew that I could play games like that, and I was kind of interested in the idea that, hey, maybe I would be better if I play on Hitbox. But I mean, it's a hassle, and switching to it, getting used to it is quite a lot of hurdles.
How long did it take you to switch to get used to it?
I'd say to be as good as I was on controller, it took me about a year.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I would say I was like pretty good like day one. I was like already beating levels in Storks and whatever, but really wrapping my head around tossing the shell up and not down. Letting go of run this way or a year. Yeah. Because also then you're going to be, there's certain like levels or gimmicks and stuff that you're not going to encounter every day, or styles of things. A lot of just running and jumping, like, yeah, whatever, sure, okay, left, right, whatever. But certain tricks and stuff that you don't see every day in every hack, all of a sudden you're confronted with it for the first time in Hitbox. It's like learning it again. So I'd say about a year, maybe a little bit less. Maybe I'm being, maybe I'm dramatizing a little bit. I'm not sure. But the real reason I switched actually is because I had a massive cyst on my wrist that was causing me like very, very intense pains. I broke my arm. Was it 2017 or something? I didn't end up getting surgery. I was supposed to get surgery, and it got called off like while I was on the operating table. It healed up. Everything seems sort of fine. And then at some point, it just like visibly, like just wasn't healing up. I went to physio, and I didn't realize that I thought that it was just going to be like this forever. It felt like my hand was never back to normal. Well, I think like almost luckily I started playing Kaizo, and the sort of this sort of constant holding, like I'm holding up a controller now. this constant holding down Y to run or to hold items, and then pressing B, and I have this like death grip on the controller. Constantly doing that motion was irritating. This where my wrist is here, that's where my cyst was, and it started getting it sort of irritated, inflamed. I would go to pour the water for my coffee in the morning, and just holding the kettle and bending it, like I was in serious pain, and I'd had to use one hand to hold my other hand.
Oh wow.
And I started thinking, well, one, I was like, okay, my Kaizo career is over. I can't play this anymore.
No.
This is
Yeah.
fucking up my hands.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started thinking, okay, well, maybe it's the controller. Like, I wasn't really sure. And then it turned out I went to the doctor, and
Mm-hmm.
yes, there was a cyst. They did like an MRI, I guess, on it, and I had surgery then scheduled to remove the cyst. It ended up popping. I'm sitting in a bar with my friend. Like, it was one of the first bars that I went to, sort of since the pandemic had started. I'm sitting in a bar with my friend, just sort of talking about it, and I was kind of poking at it. Boom. It was just gone. I didn't even feel it. I didn't even notice it. It was just gone.
It never came back.
It did actually. It came back
Okay.
this summer and then disappeared again. I was kind of poking it a lot because I didn't really feel like I want to go through the surgery, because I also thought I'd be doing that. Yeah. Anyway, Anyway, it ended up going away again. We'll knock on wood that it doesn't come back a third time.
Yeah.
But between me having the cyst and it's sort of, popping, I switched to Hitbox. So a friend of mine, Dr. Brotfana, he was another German streamer. He doesn't stream so much these days, but he still hangs around. Really, really, he's become a good friend. He had these buttons that he had 3D printed, and he sent me them, and I put them in a box, and it didn't actually help my hand at all. It made it worse, because I would use my thumb here to hold down run, and it was honestly irritating my wrist in the exact same way that my that my hand, or that the controller was. So I thought that it was going to get better, but it was actually making it worse. But the switch was, it was too late. I'd already switched. Then I bought some better buttons, and then I got this permanent case thing, and that was it. It was, I'm a better player on Hitbox. There's no question about it. I don't make the same mistakes that I did on controller. So the advantages are almost endless. The hurdles were basically just getting used to doing it, especially specific tricks. The reasons were mostly for health, although in the end that ended up not helping. And now the reasons for staying really are to just I'm more comfortable on it. That's just how SMW is played on Hitbox. You can't change my mind. I'd say the only disadvantage are honestly doing frame jumps, or like block grab jumps. So in Super Mario World, sometimes when you have these blue blocks that if you pick them up, they become a crumble block, and we can use that for various tricks or whatever. If you want to pick one of those up, you press Y. But if you want to jump and pick it up at the same time, which is a really common trick in Kaizo, you have to press Y and B at the same time, or X and A. But anyway, we'll say Y and B. And so you have to press them exactly on the same frame, 60 frames in a second, I think. 60 frames? Yeah. So you have to press this extremely, the coordinated, which is not so bad if you're using the same hand. You press in the same, you just use a thumb. That's how I used to do it. But on Hitbox, I'm using my thumb and I'm using my index. And I struggle so much to just do that at the exact same time. That is, like, honestly, the biggest disadvantage. It's like so extreme of a disadvantage for me that I considered at some point getting off Hitbox, but the advantages are just way too many. Like, I mean, yeah.
So something else I wanted to say about the advantages is that so really, like, if you're not clawing a controller, if you're just holding it normally, you have 4 fingers to like 6 buttons.
Yeah.
Whereas on the hitbox, you have access to all 10 of your fingers and each finger to a button. So you can be a lot more precise.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I mean, I should also mention, so another game here. I'm mirrored. No, I'm not mirrored. I'm usually mirrored, and I'm not mirrored now. For Metroid here that I'm pointing, showing off my little collection. That's another game that I started speedrunning. I played it casually on stream at 2020, 2021. Like, I finished it then. And then I started learning the speedrun, and I actually learned it on Hitbox. So it's even crazier because on there, in Mario World, you very rarely need to use start and select to perform tricks. Select sometimes, but in general, you don't really need it. In Super Metroid, you're using select constantly. We often will use it for item cancel. You can map differently on Super Metroid. So sometimes I'm like dragging my hands over and stuff, but I mean, just having all those buttons there on your hitbox available to you, I would say hitbox is even more advantageous on Super Metroid than it is on in Super Mario World. It's a lot more accepted in Super Mario World because you're already playing hacks that they were never meant to be played on quote unquote original hardware anyway. In Super Metroid, there's maybe different opinions about it, and there's fair criticisms as well. But oh gosh, I mean, I've just gotten so used to playing it now for both those games that for me, like, I cannot imagine playing them on controller. I still can play Super Mario World on controller. I can still play Kaizo on controller. I could switch back. I literally cannot even play Super Metroid on controller. Like, it's embarrassing.
Oh, that's interesting.
I'm incapable of playing it. Like, I can't. Yeah, it's kind of funny. That's not everybody. I know there's a really good hitbox player. He's one of I think he's in like the top 10 for the any percent category of Super Metroid, which is like the most prestigious one. And he's a hitbox player. He's also a monster on controller. So it's a matter of time, It's a matter of practice and time. But
what is it you feel like you can't do on the controller for Super Metroid now?
Too many inputs that I'm just not used to reaching over. A lot of people will claw, so clawing is like, using your index and stuff to hit things, and I
so
really
awkward.
That.
Yeah.
Some people will even switch to piano grip, so they'll play it like this, like a keyboard or a piano as they call it. And I mean, people will do that like depending on what room they go to. The players that play on controller and have hand cams, I mean, that is a feat in and of itself. Just to watch people like Zosty or Shiny Zenny, watching them. God, does Oats and Goats use a hand cam? I think at some point you could see his hands recently when he was doing the grind. But Zost and Zenny, and I think Zenny specifically does a lot of piano stuff. Watching his hand cam, I mean, it is just. It's mesmerizing the way he does it. It's crazy some of the things that they can do. Yeah.
You said piano grip, and I was shaking my head, hand on my forehead, like, oh god, no, please.
It's horrible.
It was
yeah. I mean, that's basically what we're doing on Hitbox, but we made it comfortable for ourselves.
Yeah.
Like Super Nintendo controllers were not meant to be played like a piano. So
it's like living in a box.
Yeah. But hey, power to them. I mean, they get control. So yeah.
I hope your hands will not be cramped after doing that. And then last question from Faf. Why eat a kiwi whole with the skin on?
You got to just end with the best of hot takes, huh? Is it really even a hot take? I don't know.
I think it is. I think if I go to a random person's stream and ask them skin on or off, I think generally they'll say off.
I think most people, honestly, and I mean, obviously, I'm seasoned. I'm a seasoned veteran in this department. Most people won't even answer the question because they think you're insane when you ask it. This goes right back. We talked about this. We talked about my first band. So there's the drummer that moved to Berlin, and the guy who lives in Seattle now, who's actually like still playing in bands and stuff, and he's actually in some pretty successful bands and stuff. He showed me the way. Sam, Sam, if you're listening, he showed me the way. I don't know when it was. This guy, like, he used to walk around with a Leatherman knife, and I saw him, busting out oranges, just like cutting up oranges, peeling them off, and like eating them there. And okay, sure. And one time I saw him he had a kiwi, and he just bit into it like it was an apple, and I was like, "What the fuck is going on, man? Like, what the?" It's like, "Yo, Sam, man, what the fuck, dude? What are you doing?" And he's like, "Just try it, man. Just try it. Like, it's amazing." And then the other one that moved to Berlin as well. Like, I think he like kind of got on the kiwi eating kiwi whole train. And yeah, I mean, obviously as a kid, like, I'm not gonna, sometimes with my hot takes, I sort of argue it just to be facetious. But I do also believe these opinions. It's not that I don't. It's not that I don't. It's not that I don't. That it's all just hot takes for the sake of it. I mean, part of it is for fun, for sure. But I genuinely do eat my kiwis this way. I tried it. So what we're saying, eating a kiwi whole, like genuinely, just taking it, biting it like it's an apple, eating it all the way down to that little hard bit that's on sort of like. There's one on either end, but one is sort of more edible than the other one. Until you get that little piece, and you just toss it. And he told me, he showed me the way. Now you can have kiwis on the go. You don't need a knife. Ironically, ironic. I mean, I guess it is kind of ironic, because he used to carry around a knife, right? But you don't need a knife. You don't need a spoon. You don't need to peel it. You don't need to cut it open. You don't get your hands messy. As long as you eat it properly, if you just take it like this, so you had like, take it like that, is eat it down that way all the way through. You can have a kiwi, low maintenance, mess free. Can enjoy wherever, and once you get used to it, the kiwi hairs are not as bad. They look a lot worse, and they feel a lot worse on your hands than they do in your mouth.
I think it would be better if you just didn't mention kiwi hairs.
That's why I wanted to make sure I said kiwi hairs before I launched into that. You can take that however you want, but give it a try. I promise you, you might not be converted, but I guarantee you it's not going to be nearly as bad as you think it is. Right. So this part here I don't eat, obviously, because it's too hard. But this one's usually pretty soft. So we'll start from there. And that's all that's left.
I was concerned for a second you were gonna eat a kiwi whole like right now, but
I thought about it because I will say I peeked into my Discord to see what kind of horrors people wanted to ask me.
Yeah.
But I ain't got no kiwis at home right now.
Do you pre-wash your kiwis also, or?
I mean, I wouldn't really care either way. I tend to put it under the tap. But like, yeah, I mean, if I bought a kiwi at the store, like this is a great example. If you get a kiwi and it's ripe from a market or the store or whatever, I can dig into that right away, and I wouldn't care to wash it. Whereas you're gonna need a knife, you're gonna need a spoon, or you're gonna need to figure some other alternative out. I just fucking go right for it. There you go.
Yeah, I guess even if I'm digging in it with my nails, like that's still an extra part of the process I have to do.
And I mean, if you're digging in with your nails, there's no doubt about it, you're gonna create some sort of mess.
Right? Yeah. All right. Well, there you go.
Oh, jeez.
All right. So yeah, that's the interview. So yeah, go check out go check out Zanian. Awesome to watch. Whether it's just him talking or playing. Twitch.tv/Zanian_ZANIAAN. underscore. And yeah, Zanian, thank you for talking with me. I hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was really fun. It was really fun. I really like yeah, I mean, I have a problem where sort of sometimes I can't stop talking. But
There
yeah.
is actually one more question I have to ask you.
Oh yeah, go for it. Go for it.
Okay. So there's that question I ask everybody, and it's if you were to give anybody advice on like who's like thinking about streaming, or like they just started, what's like something you'd advise them on as far as streaming?
Oh man. I think there's so many tips that you can get out there. Just search on Google and it's like tips for streaming. It's like how to interact with people, you know, like raid etiquettes or like what you can do for OBS. Screw all that shit. You're going to read all that stuff anyway, because anybody who would listen to this answer is someone who's probably already done those searches. The number one tip that I can give people is unless you're a god gamer and your entire stream revolves around you being the best FPS player or you being the best Rocket League player or FIFA player or whatever the hell game it is that you're amazing at, people are going to watch you. They don't give a shit what your personality is like. They're going to watch you. If you're not that person, like 99.99999% of streamers out there, care about the people that watch you and care about the community that you're in. Who cares about your stats? Who cares if you're going to make money? Who cares if you have new followers? Don't worry about any of that stuff. Stop thinking about growth. Stop thinking about any of that stuff. If you want to become a famous streamer, yeah, sure. I mean, I can't help you, you know? I don't think anybody can really help you. But if you want to enjoy it and if you want to actually have fun doing it, just care about the people that you talk to every day. Don't think about it as my chat or my stream. Think about it as in like this interview is a perfect example. You know, I mean, in all fairness, I'm the one who was talking most of the time, but I mean, we've just had this interview, and this is like connecting us to, you know, on a different level, right? And I get to know you a little bit better. You get to know me a lot better. And I mean, obviously for me, like, I mean, I'm not thinking about this in terms of utility or something, but if somebody else that knows me watches this, they'll get a different perspective, and then they might be interested. If they come by my stream, like, sure, you can think of that in terms of viewers and boosting that, but I think of it in terms of like, if somebody listens to this podcast and then comes by and asks me about it, that's just more interaction. And I mean, isn't that what we all want to do streaming anyway? We want to interact with people. And I think a lot of the people that hang out in my stream and in the streams that I hang out with are similar to me, but also there are specific aspects that the people in our communities that you and I share as well. They have nothing to do with our real lives or nothing in common with our real lives. And that's a passion for the games that we play. You know? Like my partner is into watching Kaizo now because I'm a streamer and I stream here and she watches me, and she's gotten into watching other streamers that play Kaizo and stuff. Honestly, she couldn't give a damn about the actual game herself, right? But like we're connected through that community because she's my partner. None of my real life friends, I mean, save for a few exceptions, really give a damn about this stuff. And I mean, I don't even really talk about it with them that much. So we have this special thing together, and if you don't foster that and don't care about that, you're not going to enjoy it, and you're not going to go anywhere. You know, if you want to use that to think about in terms of growth, sure, that's one way. But I really think about it as in like you have to treat the stream for what I see it as, which is a place to hang out with people and have fun. And don't treat these people like they're your viewers or your chat. Treat them like human beings. And,
basically, like keep it casual, conversational, like
and like care about people. I mean, how do you know? It's like how you make friends in real life. I think that is different for other people. I mean, I think I'm very much the same person in real life that I am on stream. That might come across sounding a certain way, but I mean, I've also been told that people who have met me from stream as well. I like I like hanging out with people, and I'm interested in what they have to do, and if you are too, then people will want to be around you. I think that's just a good rule in general.
Yeah, yeah, that
But
makes
yeah,
sense.
if you wanna take that a little bit more cynically, I don't know, try to build community by making connections. I mean, I guess like networking, like you can
Yeah.
probably find that on your Google search.
Mhm.
I would really hope that people would not treat it that way, but
No, yeah.
inevitably, I think the key to being a big streamer is networking properly. I'm glad that that's not something that interests me, because that's not what I want. So
It makes it more genuine too. So,
yeah, exactly. So yeah,
all right. So now that's the end of the interview.
yeah.
So yeah, again, yeah, Zanian, thank you again for talking with me. Had a good time.
I did too.
Um,
Thanks.
yeah.
Thanks for asking me to do this. It's kind of fun to think about. Now I think about like the last 10 years of my life. Even now that I mean, we covered like every bit of like every time period, I guess. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's funny to kind of look back at things, So
hmm
yeah, I really appreciate it. I really appreciate being on. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
See ya.